What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming here, and well, with all the different games out there, all the different genres, all the different franchises, all the different developers, studios, publishers, directors, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. There are so many different types of games out there. Now, that even goes with saying there are good games, there are bad games, there are games that are not for you. There are critically acclaimed masterpieces that for some reason you just can't enjoy. And there are these games that are absolutely panned for being a 0 out of 10, minus 5 stars, complete trash game that you absolutely love. Now, it's very, very hard to say what these are and what the reason for this is. Granted, some of them can be explained and broken down, but it goes a little bit beyond that because what I want to do right now is I want to ask the important question. Has there ever been a game that you wanted to love, wanted to like, wanted to enjoy so much, but unfortunately, no matter how much you try, you just can't for whatever reason it is? Be it the setting, hell, you could even say the visuals, the performance, or you could just go with the gameplay, the characters, the story, hell, even maybe the voice acting. There's so many different reasons why it could turn you off. Now, of course, as is the benevolent Q, naturally, when I ask a question of you guys, I offer myself up as the prime example first off. There's several games over the dozens of years of gaming that I've played that come to mind. Now, I'm only going to give a very brief example because otherwise we'll be here for a long, long time. And I want to keep this video fairly short. So when it comes to games that I've wanted to be good, I've wanted to be great, be it because I'm a fan, be it because I enjoy the series, generally the gameplay, previous installments, yada yada yada, or people have recommended it to me based on a different game or genre or franchise I like, different studio that I like, or something along those lines. But of course, we know it doesn't always go that way. And a couple of great examples in my case were Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. That's right, everyone's heart probably started to sink as soon as I said The Legend of Zelda. But then when you realize I said Skyward Sword, you'd be like, oh, okay, he just hates the waggle gameplay. That's completely justified and completely understandable. I want to enjoy Skyward Sword, I want to play it. Whenever I used to start sitting down and playing it and whatnot, I just could not get past that absolutely awful control scheme. Absolutely dire, and I completely hated it. I realized that because it is a first party Nintendo game, they basically built in the whole motion control gimmick as a core element of gameplay, which was a real killer. At least with something along the lines of Xenoblade Chronicles, they would specifically give you the Pro controller or the Retro Pro controller, whatever it was called on the Wii, just because they knew this was the proper way to play it. And playing it on a Joy-Con and nunchuck was just hell. I called it a Joy-Con. That's brilliant. Playing it on a Wiimote and nunchuck was just absolutely terrible, just because. But it goes beyond. Oh, by the way, I will just say as well, if Skyward Sword hopefully does get a remaster for the Nintendo Switch, I will gladly play it on one or two conditions. One, they don't force you to play with Waggle Waggle Soy-Con, because you can still do a bit of the motion controls and all as well. Just let me play with a Pro controller. That has the same motion controls built in. If you're going to force me to do some of the puzzles, the motion control puzzles, make it like Breath of the Wild. Because I could use the Pro controller movements for that. And I could play the other 99.9% of the game with a regular controller. Also, we have Okami as well. I remember seeing Okami way back in the day. I can't remember if it was on the PS2 or the Wii. I want to go with the PS2 when I saw one of my friends play it, and I thought it looked great at the time, but I never got around to playing it. Now, fairly recently when they released the HD collection, the HD remaster, I sat down and I said, you know what, I'm going to play this. I've always wanted to play this. This has always been the really appealing game from multiple different ways because of the visual style, and many people compared it to Zelda games, which was obviously a very big positive for me. Now, unfortunately, having said that, when I sat down and started playing Okami, there was just something about it, something I could not put my finger on. But every so often I would play that game, and after maybe about 20 minutes I would be bored. And I play JRPGs, I play a lot of genres, but I do play JRPGs, so I don't need action. I can sit there and have a big stint of slow, narrative, story gameplay for hell, even maybe an hour, 2 hours if I have to. but there was something about Ukami that just turned me off it. I really wanted to like it. I tried playing it as much as possible, but eventually I hit a wall and I just said no more. This is something similar of a theme we'll see here with the next game, which is actually Bayonetta. Now, I was a big fan of the original Devil May Cry and most of Devil May Cry 2, basically all of Dante's bit. I didn't like, was it Trish? I want to say Trish. I didn't like her stuff, but then when I played Devil May Cry 3 ever so briefly after that, I didn't like it, and well, the rest is history for that series for me. But I loved Devil May Cry 1 and 2, and when Bayonetta came out, for years and years and years, hell, Bayonetta just hit its 10-year anniversary. So for almost, I would say probably about 8 years, everyone was recommending Bayonetta to me. Mainly for two reasons. One, they were saying, Q, look at her, she's gorgeous. You know you want a piece of that. Two, you love Devil May Cry. You wouldn't like all this other new stuff, but Bayonetta is for you. So eventually when they released the best version of the game, which of course is still the PC version of the game, well, I decided I would give it a go, because why wouldn't I? So eventually, I bought it at launch, and then eventually, about maybe 6 months or a year later, I sat down and finally started to play the game. And Bayonetta bored the absolutely living shit out of me. I don't know what it was. I found it very repetitive, and some of the set pieces and the funkiness and all that was Bayonetta was nice at first, but it eventually wore thin. It felt like it was almost just reusing the same joke again and again and again and again. Not obviously a joke, but you know what I mean. It was the same formula, the same something over and over again. And I found the combat was basic enough. It felt like there wasn't as much variety as everyone had led me to believe. And it got to the point where when I was playing Bayonetta, almost every time I sat down to play that, I had to play one chapter at a time. There was 2 instances where I played 2 chapters, but it was mostly one chapter at a time, simply because that game bored the ever-living shit out of me. I would be halfway through a chapter, and I could not wait for it to be over. I just dreaded the fact that there was probably still 50% of a chapter to get through before I could turn this shit off. And this ties in pretty much perfectly with the next game on our list as well. I get a lot of hate, and I get a lot of, I get a lot bashed from this one, if you will. But Nier, and specifically that is Nier Automata. Now, everyone considers this game the modern masterpiece and whatnot too. I had no interest in the game for several years. Eventually I just said, fuck it, I'll get it and I'll play it on stream at one point. But that PC version is a mess, so we're not going to talk about the streaming side of it. But eventually I did go back to it off stream and hopefully be able to play it for myself. I played through the main story, the entire first part of it, because the rest is additional side grade bonus content, post game stuff. But I finished the main story. That's the main thing as well. And frankly, it's one of the most overrated games in history to me. I wanted to go in, I wanted to like it, but I just could not. And this is something that's going to draw much ire. That my next statement and my next thing is going to draw much ire from anyone out there who does love this game like many people do. But I found that this game had insanely boring, basically one combo, press X to win kind of thing. Press X to win. I was playing on an Xbox controller, so I think it was press X to win. But yeah, I found the combat in this game was very simplistic. Sure, you could change weapons, you could change your chips and stuff around, but the game was so basic in combat and design that you didn't even need to. Eventually I stopped doing all the fancy chips and the customization on your weapons and chips and all that too. Eventually it just wasn't necessary. I could just beat the game by essentially mashing X and dodging. So it did nothing for me. I thought the story was a joke as well, and some of the music was nice, maybe about 2 or 3 of the songs, but so much of that game, like 95% of it, just did not resonate with me, and I basically actively dislike it. Now, we will round out with one other one here as well, which we have on a PS4 as The Last Guardian, a game that had been years and years in the making at that point. And I really wanted to play it, I really wanted to enjoy it, but unfortunately, I don't know what it was. I just sat down to try to play it again recently, actually, a few weeks ago, and I just couldn't do it. I don't know what it was. I don't mind a slow game. I don't mind games in this style, with the games of like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus as the most notable examples. But there was just something with The Last Guardian that just turned me off it. And I just don't know. I wanted to play it, I wanted to, but it really, really just killed it for me. Oh, you know what? I wasn't even planning on including this one, but it just popped back into my mind at the last second right now. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness back on the GameCube. I tried to play Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, I believe it was back in 2018, I want to say, when I was doing my whole retro collection thing again as well. I'd only briefly played it back in the GameCube when it was current, but when I went back to play Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness fairly recently, I had a bit of a problem. Now, that problem is that I tried to play that game in maybe about 6 or 8 or 9 different sessions, and every single time, no matter what I did prior in the day, prior to playing, if I had just eaten recently, if it was up late or whatever it was, every single time without fail, after about 30 minutes of playing that game, I would literally be falling asleep. I would struggle to keep my eyes open. One or maybe even 2 times, I actually did legitimately fall asleep and wake up like 20, 30, 45 minutes later. It was just rough. I wanted to like it because it was the closest thing to a mainline Pokemon RPG. Like I said, the closest thing. It wasn't a real mainline RPG on a proper home console. Of course, this was before Sword and Shield, but yeah, it's unfortunate. So, let me know in the comments section below, what games out there have you tried to play multiple times, but just haven't got anywhere with it? I didn't really include another one on this list, that is Red Dead Redemption 1. Everyone recommended it to me, said I love it, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. I did give it a try several different times, at one point for even up to 8 hours, but I don't count that because I didn't want that to be good. I didn't really care. I was just giving it a try because a friend recommended it to me, and I valued his opinion, but it didn't go anywhere. So let me know again in the comment section below. Have you had any games where you've had a problem like this? Have you really wanted to get into it? Was there something specifically that turned you off it? Something that you couldn't put your finger on that turned you off it? Or what's the deal? Let me know what those games are, why if you can, and of course, hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video, and while you're at it, head on over, hit the subscribe button, and even ring the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel. And remember, I can't believe I did this video entirely in one take with no editing, and holy shit, it lasted about 13.5 minutes when I was looking for maybe 5 or 6. Yikes.